What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you a video going over players you should target for this Sunday's main slate on DraftKings. Don't think I'm going to do FanDuel. I might pop one out, but basically just going to do DraftKings one. And this is strictly for cash. I'll talk GPP plays in it, but this is players that you probably want for cash. And I'm just going to go position by position. So if you guys have any questions or if you guys have any other information to share, by all means, share it in the comments. But let's get right into it. So quarterbacks, you have your 3, 4, 5 guys above 7K this week. You have 2 guys above 8K, which is something we didn't see a lot last year. But, I mean, with the matchups, I mean, it is worth it. Kyler Murray has been outrageous. We don't know how long that's going to last. It seems like forever the way that no one can tackle him, and he just scrambles and hits DeAndre Hopkins deep, Rondell Moore deep, finds A.J. Green short. I mean, that offense looks really good. So Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, all safe plays in cash. The only one I'm probably getting a little away from is Lamar due to illness. We all know how sicknesses can affect people. I'm not saying he's a bad play at all. It's just I'd rather go with a confident, fully healthy guy against good matchups here. Kyler Murray going against one of the worst defenses and one of probably the more faster pace offenses that don't do much. They get yards, they just can't find ways to score. Patrick Mahomes is only $100 cheaper. I mean, there's not a real difference. Kyler Murray probably just has a better matchup, in my opinion, than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is still a great play. That offense is one of the best offenses in the league, and they will continue to be as long as they have Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. So right now I'm favoring Kyler Murray. Russell Wilson is a good pay down compared to those guys. You save about $600, $700 against Minnesota, who's gotten lit up by Arizona and who's gotten lit up by Cincinnati. And now Russell Wilson, and we've seen Russell Wilson in first halves of the season plays really well. And right now he's finding all his guys he needs to find. Tight end play, not as much, but Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, even Swain, Chris Carson getting the red zone carries and scoring when he needs to. So that offense looks really good. Minnesota's offense is also playing really well right now, and they're pacing these teams. Both games, I mean, are winnable for Minnesota, and vice versa of Seattle. Like, both teams could be 2-0, both teams could be 0-2, essentially. But yeah, Russell Wilson to me is if you need to pay down, you could pay down Russell Wilson. He's probably not going to finish that far behind Murray and Mahomes. Josh Allen, I would like to say Josh Allen is a play, but we know how Washington's defense could be, and Josh Allen just hasn't looked like Josh Allen yet. Eventually it's going to spark. I don't think he's going to keep on this slump for much longer. But I'd rather either pay down for another quarterback or pay up at a quarterback. Tom Brady against the Rams defense, it's probably one of the only very few times I'm going to go away from Tom Brady. It's nothing against Tom Brady and that amazing offense, one of the top 5 offenses in the league, in my opinion. It's just that Rams defense does look really good, and there's a lot safer plays for me. For instance, right below is Justin Herbert, who's playing Patrick Mahomes. The thing about Justin Herbert, we could just look at his DraftKings stats, is you see his passing attempts, you see his completions, you see his yards, and then you see his points. He's yet to hit 20 because he only has 1 touchdown in both games. This is a game where they need to get back and not lose a game like they did against Dallas, not have a close game against Washington, in order to solidify that they're going to compete with, teams like Kansas City, teams like Denver, and all that. Even Vegas. I mean, there's a very tough division in the beginning of the season, so they're going to need to play really good in order to beat Kansas City. Justin Herbert just needs his touchdowns. This is a game where he can get his touchdowns. So, for me, I mean, even involving Eckler, I like Eckler a lot for cash. Herbert against Kansas City at 6,500. Really good play. $100 cheaper is Matt Stafford against the Rams. Now, Matt Stafford is probably like my safer value cash play this week. He's $6,400. You look at his numbers, his DraftKings points, 18 points last week against the Colts, 27 points against the Bears. They're playing against a very good offense on the other side of the ball of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's pass defense is not good. Darrell Henderson is probably going to be out, which means they have Sony Michel, which means they're going to end up throwing the ball a lot more. I won't say a whole lot more. I'd say a little more than usual. And if Tampa Bay is somehow lighting up the Rams defense, Stafford and that Rams offense can do the same thing against Tampa Bay. They have one of the highest totals on the slate. All these quarterbacks I mentioned, very high totals, over 50. So they're good plays to me. You go down and find value. Someone like Kirk Cousins, I'm not too high on. I'd rather stay at Stafford. He's probably one of the cheaper plays that I'd go to. I wouldn't go Derek Carr. That team, his offense is just banged up, including him. Daniel Jones against Atlanta, I think, is a good play. It's just how long is Daniel Jones going to go without having a Daniel Jones game to say. And at 5,800, I mean, him and Teddy Bridgewater, they're probably more GPP plays for me because you could pay down 600 from Matt Stafford to them. You go down, and another play is Justin Fields. I'm not saying Justin Fields is someone that you need to go after, anything like that, because he did look kind of shaky. Granted, it's his first game that he got into, so you have to cut him some slack. I don't think anyone thought that he'd be going in that much. And with Cleveland's offense being banged up, Justin Fields just has a spark, but I wouldn't trust him in cash just yet against his defense. Cleveland's defense, a defense that can easily make your life a living hell as a quarterback, so I'd rather stay away from Justin Fields. We go to running backs. Dalvin Cook, if he's healthy, at 8,400 is probably going to be the running back you want to pay up for. Derrick Henry had a great week last week, I get that. The Colts secondary is terrible right now. So, forgot to mention Ryan Tannehill, 6,200. It's just, he's a GPP play. He's not a cash play for me. But Dalvin Cook is that cash play guy that you want to pay up for, 8,400. Going to see the ball a lot against Seattle, can easily get more receiving yards and rushing yards this game. Alvin Kamara, I think, is interesting for me. At 8,200, not a lot of people are on him because of what New Orleans did last week, and I get that. But you got to remember, they had so much coaching staff out. They had player personnel out. They had a lot that they had to deal with last week. And there was just, Jameis Winston just did not play good. It wasn't Kamara, it wasn't any, it's just Jameis didn't play good. I can't really see that again against New England. And you got to realize that Mac Jones is going against a very good defense this week. And he's going to have to step it up because there's no way that they're going to try to pace this New Orleans offense that we saw lit up Green Bay and try to pace that. It's not going to work. So Kamara actually is somebody I like. Nick Chubb against the Bears, I'm not full on just because he does split it with Kareem Hunt. If Eddie Goldman plays, I always say if Eddie Goldman plays, that's game changer for that Bears rush defense. Helps a lot. But with Cleveland being down receivers, they might rely on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt a little more. It's just I don't like his price point at 7,600 for the potential points. Austin Eckler is probably the second highest running back that I'd pay up to. Cook is one. Kamara is more GPP play for me. Eckler is another guy that I'd pay up for in cash. He's put up numbers. He's getting healthy. Like, people forget that he had that hamstring week 1, week 2 last week against Dallas. 9 targets. He's seen Kansas City's defense, which is terrible. I mean, terrible at every aspect except for Tyrann Mathieu. Like, he's that guy. But Austin Eckler, 7,200, gets those red zone looks, receiving and rushing. Somebody that you want, 7,200, great price for him in this matchup. Jonathan Taylor is more of a GPP play for me. I do believe Tennessee's box defense is able to contain Jonathan Taylor, and we haven't really seen much of him. But with Carson Wentz being banged up, Jonathan Taylor might get relied on a little more to carry some workload, but it's more of a GPP. Now, Najee Harris, it's hard to go for him against Cincinnati's defense. Hasn't looked half bad. They really haven't. And I'd rather pay down for someone like Saquon, who, I mean, he's becoming healthy. Like, he's getting there. He's very close. 6,500 against Atlanta. This could be the game that he gets there. I do like him for a mid-tier running back. Good game script. Can easily see him, another guy that can get more receiving yards and rushing yards. We're just waiting for him to break out. And I'm okay with paying $6,500 for him. Chris Carson against Minnesota, he got the red zone carries. I mean, you look at his stats, they're nothing crazy, but he gets those red zone carries. He got 2 of them. His longest rush was 8 yards, 13 attempts. Safe play. Safe play. Joe Mixon against Pittsburgh. Just got to watch for injuries for Pittsburgh's defense. Joe Mixon's not a terrible play, but you have to consider of how good Pittsburgh is against the run. Josh Jacobs, another player you have to watch for injury. I'm not too high on him right now just because of his injury status, but I do think it's a good opportunity against Miami. If Cook, for injury reasons, is not playing, Madison is probably the guy that you want to get at $6,000. Same concept. Madison plays very, very well. We've seen him when Cook's been out, step it up when he needs to. And at $6,000, if Cook's out, I'm okay with paying him. We go down and look at DeAndre Swift at $5,800, which to me is very undervalued against Baltimore. Baltimore's got a good defense. We get that. Jared Goff was top 5 for passing attempts this season, and guess what? DeAndre Swift has 16 receiving attempts in 2 games. He has 19 rushing attempts in 2 games. So, I mean, he's going to get those points for receptions. And a team like Baltimore, who we've seen get beat by tight ends, can also get beat by running backs. So, DeAndre Swift is a guy that, for me, is going to get you 10-plus fantasy points every game, even with Jamal Williams being there, but somebody I do like. Tyson Williams is another safe play that I like for paying down at $5,800. I know a lot of people like myself were worried of how good Latavius Murray was going to do, but with Lamar Jackson now being sick, we might see Tyson Williams, Latavius Murray get more reps. I'm not saying that they're going to steal all Tyson Williams' volume, but I could see Tyson Williams easily getting up to 20 carries this game against Detroit, who bad defense, and their defense is getting banged up. So we've seen how good Baltimore's rushing offense is. No matter who's there, their offensive line is making holes and making it easy for teams to rush the ball. And they've had 2 good games. They played Vegas's defense, played really well. They played Kansas City's defense, who is, I'd say, decent at best against the rush. Terrible pass defense, but decent against the rush. And Baltimore still ran the ball all over both those teams. So Tyson Williams is another good play. You can honestly play Swift and Williams, get those 10-plus fantasy points you save from paying up on those more expensive running backs, the Ecklers, the Kamaras, the Cooks, and you could pay up at wide receiver because there's a lot of good plays at wide receiver this week. Overall, if you look down at some of the other running backs, there's no one that really sticks out. Sony Michel, maybe, just because of his price. It's a terrible matchup against Tampa Bay, but if he's going to be that lead back at $4,900, it's not a terrible play at all. So that's somebody else that sticks out. So we'll go to wide receivers now, guys. Obviously, Tyreek Hill against the Chargers. It's not the greatest matchup ever, but it's Tyreek Hill. He got shut down last week. We've seen him once he gets shut down 1 week, he comes back strong the next. DeAndre Hopkins is a watch. It's a game-time decision. Just got released, so going to have to watch that. If he's out, Christian Kirk is probably the guy. Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore. Stephon Diggs, I think, is in a good place to have a bounce-back game. We saw what the Giants' offense did to Washington's defense. Stephon Diggs is a very reliable receiver. He catches almost everything you throw to him. And we have yet to see Buffalo's pass connection between Diggs and Allen do what it did last year. So Stephon Diggs, I'm fine with him being my most expensive receiver this week. As far as Seattle, I'm probably leaning towards DK Metcalf here. Tyler Lockett has been lights out this season, but DK Metcalf has gotten the more rougher matchups. This one, Metcalf actually has a better matchup than Lockett, and it's only $100. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but DK Metcalf to me is definitely a play this week I'm looking at. as well as Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's not my favorite play just because of his price point. I'd rather pay down on one of these receivers here. But at 7,200, in my opinion, he's a good GPP play against this Seattle defense that's gotten torched. Right below is Cooper Kupp at 6,800. Probably one of my favorite plays this week again. Called Cooper Kupp last week. Took off beyond my expectations and I think a lot of people's, and has another good game this week. I believe Tampa Bay is probably going to try to scheme around Cooper Kupp, but I don't think it's really going to do much compared to having Robert Woods, Van Jefferson there, and someone like Tyler Higbee opening up for Cooper Kupp. Keenan Allen, if you're going to play Justin Herbert and you're going to stack Eckler with him, I suggest going Keenan Allen as well. 6,600 for some reason against Kansas City here. Great play in my opinion. A.J. Brown is somebody I'm very, very much looking at this week. 6,500, same price as Julio. Dropped a lot of passes. We all know that. He's due for a game. And with how bad the Colts have gotten beat in their secondary, A.J. Brown is due for a game, and this could be the game that he explodes. So we go down, and there's not a lot of guys that I like here. Mike Williams, I'm more on Keenan Allen than Mike Williams, even though Mike Williams is having a fantastic season. Mike Evans, I don't like Mike Evans against the Rams at all. I mean, Godwin is a maybe for me right now. I'm not too high on him. He has gotten a lot of the red zone looks, which Mike Evans does, but we also have to watch Antonio Brown news to see what's going on there. Allen Robinson, I think, is interesting at 6,200 against Cleveland. We have yet to see Allen Robinson have a huge breakout game. Darnell Mooney is actually on pace with Allen Robinson right now, which shouldn't be between somebody like Allen Robinson and a second-year wide receiver like Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney has that potential to be a great wide receiver, don't get me wrong, but Allen Robinson is probably a top 5 target receiver. He's somebody that you want to catch the ball every time at the 10-yard line to get you that first down, and he's going to. So at 6,200, I just think it's a good price. Not huge on cash, though. We go down, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton for the Giants are two guys that I do like this week. If you're going to play the Giants stack of Daniel Jones, Saquon, and you need a wide receiver, Sterling Shepard has been Daniel Jones's go-to. We've seen it. Slayton has that speed, and they used it a lot last week against Washington. Just missed a couple opportunities, but Sterling Shepard has been their go-to. If you don't want to play Cooper Kupp, you need to probably play somebody like Robert Woods. You're getting a big pay down between Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. But we've seen Robert Woods this season, 12.4, 12 points. His price is exactly the same at 5,700. It's great. But against this Tampa Bay, like I said, the Rams are going to have to throw the ball here. They're probably going to have to rely more on Robert Woods, Van Jefferson, and Higbee than they are Kupp. Kupp's still going to get his probably 10-plus targets easy, but Robert Woods will probably have an opportunity to bump up that 12.2 fantasy points a game with a great matchup here. If Carson Wentz is out and we get Jacob Eason or Huntley, we saw Michael Pittman be what we thought Michael Pittman was going to be in week 1. 8 for 12, 123 yards, no touchdowns. He's yet to get a touchdown this year. And with Jacob Eason in against a bad Tennessee defense who's gotten lit up by everybody, I'm okay with paying $5,500 for Michael Pittman. Now you might say, oh, what about Zach Pascal? And we'll go down and we'll find our boy. And here's the thing. Zach Pascal, 11 targets. I mean, he's caught almost everything. His yardage is low, but he's got those 3 touchdowns. Those points is what making Zach Pascal reliable. So if Zach Pascal were to not get those touchdowns, those points are out there, and we're not talking about Zach Pascal as much as we are Michael Pittman. So you're definitely going to have to watch Carson Wentz news. He is on pace to play, but with both his ankles being bad, there's a good opportunity he gets banged up again. But Michael Pittman is probably my guy that I'm going to target if you're targeting a Colts wide receiver for cash. Christian Kirk, if DeAndre Hopkins is out, Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore are two guys that you want to get in your lineup. Christian Kirk only being 5,400. Rondale Moore, 5,000. Both those guys are good plays. Just have to watch the news. Odell Beckham being 5,300, being that number one receiver for Cleveland against Chicago's defense, and depending on who he's lining up with, could have a very good game. So definitely going to have to watch that as well. We go down and look at some other guys that we could pay down for. Marvin Jones Jr. I hate to say it, I didn't like him, but he's only one of two receivers to get all 100% targets in the red zone for receivers. That's Marvin Jones and T. Higgins. Marvin Jones at 4,900, producing 17.5 and 18.7 points. Week 1, you could say, yeah, it was against Houston's defense, and that's why, and Jacksonville played terrible. But week 2, against Denver's defense, and Denver has probably the best secondary in football, one of the best, puts up 17.5 points, gets that touchdown. 11 targets, 9 targets. Has a better matchup against Arizona. We saw what Arizona did against Tennessee, though. But Marvin Jones is clearly that number one target in that offense, and especially in the red zone. So at 4,900, he's not a bad play at all. We go down, we talk about Darius Slayton, somebody to look at. AJ Green also, I think, gets a bump, in my opinion, if DeAndre Hopkins is out. We saw the connection last week with Kyler Murray and AJ Green. We saw in week 1, 2 of 6, 25. Last week, 3 of 6, 44. Very reliable receiver at 4,500. If DeAndre Hopkins is out, he fits that role. Can easily see a good game. Somebody like Darnell Mooney, if he's fully healthy playing, at 4,300, him and Justin Fields had a very good connection. We saw his points last week, 6 for 8, 66 yards. So he's somebody that I like. Emmanuel Sanders at 4,200. I think if we see Buffalo's offense exceed, it's going to be between Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders for breaking out. So definitely good plays there. Obviously, you could pay down for one of the Kansas City receivers. I'm not too high on them for cash, but that's also a play. So we'll go to tight ends now. Travis Kelce at 8,200. If you were to put in, I looked at it and had a nice laugh earlier. If you were to put in all three of the Kansas City stack, you're looking at 25-2 to fill out the rest of your lineup. That's crazy. Travis Kelce has an interesting matchup. He's going to be matched up against Derwin James this week. So Travis Kelce is probably not my favorite play. He's the best tight end in football, but still not one of my more favorite plays. If you're going to pay up for a tight end, I don't suggest doing it this week. There's a lot of good prices. Darren Waller's 7,400 against Miami. Derek Carr being hurt. You might see Darren Waller even get more reps if they get something like Nathan Peterman coming in. Gronkowski against the Rams, I don't fully like it, but Tom Brady and Gronk have a good connection this year. I think the connection that we were hoping for early last year just didn't happen. Gronk had to get used to the system and all that in Tampa Bay. TJ Hawkinson at 5,200. A lot of people like to say, oh, Baltimore gives up the most points to tight ends in football. Who have they played? They played Darren Waller. Oh, and then they played Travis Kelce. Guess what? They're playing TJ Hawkinson. He's playing amazing this season. The third best tight end right now in football. I'd put him fourth. Put fourth. Only put Gronk in top 3 just because of what he's done in 2 weeks. But TJ Hawkinson, he's got 20 targets in 2 games. He's got 8 receptions, 8 of 9 lists. He fills that role. He fills that role of that Darren Waller, Travis Kelce. He fits that role. 5,200 against Baltimore. Jared Goff throws the ball a lot. He's throwing it over 45 times average in both games. TJ Hawkinson is that guy that's going to get the targets. Vice versa, Mark Andrews, with Lamar being sick. Mark Andrews at 5,000 is a good play off if you don't want to play TJ Hawkinson. Mark Andrews is right there at 5,000. Good matchup. Kyle Pitts right there at 4,900. Good matchup against the Giants. We go down. The other 2 plays that I like of paying down is Tyler Higbee against Tampa Bay. 4,000. Good matchup. Should get a lot of targets. Not as much as I'd like, but at 4,000, he gets 7 targets, 5 receptions, 48 yards, something like that. Where I see him getting. I mean, that is perfect for me. For paying 4,000 for a tight end, he gets you 10 plus points. That pays off. Jared Cook is another option against Kansas City. Jared Cook, both weeks, I mean, numbers don't look too far off. 3 for 5, 5 of 8. The numbers, if you get him those 8 targets, he's probably somewhere around the 56 yards. Somebody that you just need to get you 10 plus points if you're paying down for a tight end. There's options at wide receiver to pay up for. There's options at running back to pay up for. And there's definitely options at quarterback to pay up for. If you're paying up for somebody, that means you're going to have to pay down for somebody. Tyler Higbee, Jared Cook, 2 options to pay down for. Now, I forgot to mention somebody that a couple wide receivers to play for GPP. And I apologize for it. Anthony Schwartz against the Bears. Speed definitely kills. We could see him step up. KJ Osborne, the amount of fantasy points he's put up this season and the price that he's at is definitely somebody else you want to look out for. And then we go down and we pay down. It's easier to do this, sorry. Chester Rogers at 3,000. Now, he doesn't scream value because of his 2 co-parts of Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. But he's lined up in the slot. They're going to be playing the Colts, who have gotten lit up bad in the passing game this season. And Chester Rogers lines up in the slot against Kenny Moore, who's got burnt all season. Definitely somebody I'm going to be looking at for GPPs this week. Somebody that you could pay down for 3,000. And I won't go over defenses. I mean, defenses is just thorough. In my opinion, you just go Cincinnati's defense at 2,100 and you save money there. So, hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know, like I said, who you guys are looking at. Always good for a good discussion. I'm always down for it. So, leave a comment for guys that you guys like and guys you dislike that I do like. So, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video.